Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3.
Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3.
All right, guys, and we are live. Welcome to the Epic. Everyone has hot mics, and 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey everyone, thank you again for joining us this evening for another live stream. Tonight, we are going to talk about our 2025 GXV Epic. It's a new rig. It's been getting a lot of press release. And so we're going to take some time to just get really technical with her tonight. And I would love to hear about how GXV has come to be, what goes into it, and what makes it so epic. Boys, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? You both here with Global Expedition Vehicles.
Hi, I'm Hunter Endicott. I'm a mechanical design engineer for GXV.
I'm Steve Cruz, VP of Operations for the GXV division that builds the Epic.
So, Steve, you've been with the company for a while now, and you know a lot about the history.
Sure.
Can you give us a little bit of how it got started and what kind of keeps us starting at the top and keeping us at the top?
There you go. Well, Mike and Renee Van Pelt originally started the business 20 years ago. This is the 20-year anniversary. And back then, overlanding was almost a European term, or a lot of the original overlanding vehicles were European at that time. And Mike and Renee had a successful construction business, and they did well with that. And if I remember correctly, Mike's dad always wanted to build a camper out of a radio truck, a military radio truck. And so when Mike and Renee retired very early, they built their own first expedition vehicle and did the Pan American Trail. And actually, in our lobby, Mike and Renee have gathered a lot of memorabilia over the years associated with that. And one of those things is the door off of the first car that did the Pan American Trail. So that's kind of cool. But when they were doing that trail, they realized that most of the vehicles that they saw while doing that adventure were European built. And so they came up with the idea to start Global X. And 20 years ago this year, we started building expedition vehicles. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is actually really amazing. So with that being said, we do proper R&D from real life experience.
Right.
And so I'd like to take it over to our guy Hunter here and have him kind of go through some of our awesome epic details about what makes this thing so amazing and comfortable.
Right.
Honestly.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I've been with the company for about 2 years now. And when I started, we were really ramping up the Patagonia project, or the Epic project. And so of course, there was a whole bunch of backlog of information for the last 20 years of stuff and designs and how that all goes together. And so we built off that. Of course, everything had to be a little bit touched. We had to make sure that we were RVI certified and we had these certifications for safety and all this. And so we took that a step farther from there and just made sure that, we could produce these vehicles at a high quality and keep within our certifications and do all that. So, we start off with kind of a bare chassis and we convert it to 4-wheel drive. And as Steve likes to say, we have a true transfer case. It's a 50-50 split, not all-wheel drive. Locking differentials front and rear. We put it on 44-inch tires. Then we add our capsule to the back of it. So in there, we really worked on the joinery and stuff. And so we kept a lot of that from that they figured out, how to keep it tight and how to keep it rigid. So that way we don't have a whole lot of flex in the body and creaks and noises and all that. And so we built all off pre-existing designs and what people have learned, Mike and Renee learned for years. And then changed the layout to feel, roomy and give us these big spaces. I mean, we have 8 feet of countertop space to, really, do kitchen stuff. I mean, a lot of people, we always, I think everybody in the design team was big on that. People gather around food. And so that should be a big part of being able to cook that and do that kind of stuff inside. Making sure that the living space is nice and big and that you can sit and see a TV from the corner and be able to do that, and then have a nice big queen size bed that's good to sleep on, that you feel comfortable with, and you're not waking up every 10 minutes.
Renee, that's actually a very smart observation, I feel like, on her end, because when you travel around the world, you get to learn all of these cultures, and so much of it is food based. So that actually makes a lot of sense and just further proves that what we put into our rigs is from real world experience.
Definitely,
Right on.
100%.
That's really awesome. So do you want to go into a little bit about why this is so much nicer perhaps than maybe other rigs, especially on the dirt roads, especially when it comes to those rattles and those creaks that
Right.
kind of come with it?
Well, it kind of starts at the bottom and works its way up. So like I said, we do some suspension work. We add king shocks to it to stiffen up the ride. And then the 44-inch tires, not just because they're big, but they act as suspension, right? So you air down, you get that extra cushion, which helps the whole ride quality when you're off-road and you're doing all that. And then from the interior and how we build these laminated walls, and there's a whole lot of design work that goes into how you layer sandwich walls and the interior materials that you choose for that. And that has to do with structural components. It has to do with R values, adhesives. How does that work with each other and how that all kind of comes together? And so, building off what we already had, we knew what kind of sandwich material we wanted to use, and then our outer layers for structure. And then how that works with the fasteners and stuff that we're using to make sure that box was completely rigid.
Yeah. And I'll add a little to that. There is, of all the things that we do, one of the most rich secret sauce components of the build is in the capsule design. We use adhesive methods that are probably more costly and more time consuming than a lot of standardized practices, but that ensures no delamination in the process. Some of the adhesives we use to bond this vehicle together are actually used in assembling the space shuttle. So they're world-class adhesives. Our entire building is temperature and climate controlled as a method of controlling the takt time of those adhesives to make sure we have enough time
Consistency.
to put the vehicle together and not violate the takt time. So there's, that's where that 20 years of experience that Mike and Renee developed came in, and we've tried to draw from that and not lose that as much as possible. So
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I just want to take a quick side note just so that our viewers are watching. You guys are more than welcome to ask any questions that you have. We are going to be answering some of them later on.
Right.
But I wanted to kind of touch back with the quality builds. And you did mention, okay, so maybe some of this is a little time consuming, but our vehicles are not custom.
Yeah,
And-
I'll touch on that a little.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I literally got to give the hats off to our, all of our employees and the boys and girls that actually put these vehicles together. If you think back to the days of building custom vehicles, which is where Mike and Renee spent the majority of their career, those vehicles, at best case, the engineering was taken to a 75-80% completion rate, because that's really all the time. That's really the best business case and the best way to do it. And what that means is you're relying more on your craftsmen on the floor to take it to that last 5%. And so you got to stay ahead of our guys, because if you don't, they'll get ahead of you. But the net result is we just don't have people putting together vehicles here. We have craftsmen in every sense of the word. We're very vertically integrated at GXV. We have our own cabinet shop. We have our own fabrication shop. We assemble and build not only our walls, but the capsules. That makes us very agile and being able to turn on a dime sometimes, but it also allows us to control the quality. But really, hats off to all my boys, because boys and girls, because they're a heck of a crew.
Yeah, I think the word we used when we built the first one was it was crisp. Everything was just neat and clean and crisp.
Yeah.
And so we're trying, yes. And so we try to keep that feeling that we had on the first one.
The control of fit and finish, and always paying attention to every single one of those details, the gaps in the drawers and the matching of the grain finish, and just the tolerances that we use, and the fact that we have CNC machines that do a lot of the machining for us allows us to control that precision and those tolerances, and everything comes together like a watch. So yeah,
It's been really cool being able to wander around the shop and see how you guys put some of this stuff together, because coming from a motorsport background, I like to kind of see what you guys are playing with and your attention to detail, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Genuinely.
Thank you.
And I'm curious, because as I have also built vehicles that are meant to go off-road and water crossings, can you talk a little bit about any sort of protections that you have against water intrusions and stuff like that?
go ahead, huh?
Oh yeah, I mean, water is a big concern. It's really destructive. So we take any penetrations very seriously. So we use all NEMA grade fittings and sealants. So that way any wiring that's moving through the body to the exterior is completely sealed up. We have, we did a lot of testing, tried different glands and stuff like that, and really decided, this is the best one to keep that stuff out. And then additionally, I mean, we add hardware to the bottom side to make sure that things don't get damaged when you're crawling. We have a skid plate over the radiator that we've added just to make sure, because it hangs a little low, and so we wanted to protect that and keep that safe. And so that's how we really are concerned with making sure everything is going to stand.
Right. Snorkel too, for snorkel for high intake, or for high clearance intake of the air going into the engine, of course. And the ground clearance associated with 44-inch tires, and the suspension system we have, it's up in the air. So yeah, they can go through some water.
Hey guys, we actually had our first question come in. So James Horn asked, "What is the longest amount of time someone has ever spent in one of these?" And I'll add my own ending to it: is how long could you stay in one of these?
Oh, right on.
Thanks,
I'll answer that. We actually have a vehicle here that is our second. It was, I think, maybe the last custom build that Mike and Renee did, and I think we finished it up. Well, I know we finished it up while we were here, or while Hunter and I were here. And that man has been living in his Epic. Gosh, I can't really quote the correct amount of years, but it's years, and he lives in Alaska, literally. I think must be a gold miner because but anyway, he lives in his existing Epic, custom designed a new Epic to fit his lifestyle in Alaska. It's kind of a unique layout. You can actually access the garage from the interior, so you don't have to go outside, which is a credit to Mike and Renee's flexibility from a design perspective. But he hasn't even picked it up yet, and we've had it done for a year and a half. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. So he's been out.
Steve, come here and pick up your truck.
Been called out, Steve. That is too funny.
I mean, we've done some testing with the vehicle after we completed it, and we stayed, I mean, overnight, 2 nights in this vehicle, not operating it. I mean, doing AC. I mean, we ran AC all night, and for 2 days we didn't move the vehicle,
I was
didn't do
saying
anything.
that's without starting it.
We just lived in it, and we ran. We had hookups for laptops and power, and drones and cameras and stuff. And I mean, I think the lowest we ever got was 40% battery.
Yeah.
It was high, and it was just. I mean, we have 1,980 watts of solar on this thing, and so it's not even about how much you can carry, but it's what we can produce.
Right.
And so we have, like I said, all that solar, and then we have a 6,000 kilowatt or 6,000 watt generator, as well as alternator charging. So I mean, and redundancies. That's a big thing of what we support is making sure that no matter what happens, you have a way to get your system back up.
18,000 watt hours of battery, which if you did the math is just crazy. But when you add the generator, there is literally the generator, the battery, the capacity, the solar, the alternator charging. There is literally no way that you could run out of power in an off-grid situation. Your limiting factor is how long you can stay out. It's going to be water, which is 120 gallons. So, yeah.
120 gallons.
120 gallons.
120
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's so amazing.
That means some nice long hot showers.
I mean, and I can personally attest to this one.
Yeah.
So it was really nice being able to take a nice long hot shower and not even run out of the hot water.
And I've been our adventure trucks have a similar amount of freshwater capacity. And I've probably spent more extended time in those, I think, because I did 7 days one time. And, it was one person in a truck, not a family. So that makes a difference. And I spent a whole weekend and did everything I wanted to do. And I still had 50% water capacity left. Now, I wasn't taking sailor showers, but I wasn't taking the same shower that I had at home. But I was living comfortably. Like when I was washing dishes, I wasn't trying to be super frugal because I was testing the vehicle and kind of getting a vibe on how long, that amount of water would truly last. So it's a comfortable scenario.
Now, Hunter, you've been in this thing also.
Yeah. I mean, right after we developed it, it was part of the goals that engineering should test the vehicle.
I like that a lot.
We need to know what we produced actually meets what we have set as goals, and does it perform the way we expected it to perform? This validation testing is extremely important. And so when we released it at Overland West.
Last year.
We drove it back from there, and so we hit up the Grand Canyon, Alstrom Point, and
Smoky Mountain
Pass, and
sounds like there's a story coming here.
Yeah, so keep this in mind. Hunter was 23 years old at the time. I think, so we did the Grand Canyon and then backtracked a little, and from Page, Arizona to Alstrom Point is probably 40 miles of dirt.
Probably.
Pretty easy for the first section, and then the last 2 or 3 miles I would call really hard or really four-wheeling. And so Hunter had probably maybe 150 miles of driving the Epic by that time. When we left Alstrom Point, we went up Smoky Mountain Pass.
Like I said, just let it do the work.
Yeah.
And it will do it.
Yeah,
Did you have to put it in 4-wheel drive or anything on that
yeah,
trip?
I think we did.
We did on
I
that
don't
deal, and
know.
that was mainly just to get the gearing because it was so steep. You
Okay.
know, you
Yeah.
just
I don't know if-
needed that lower gearing to get that torque where
Yeah.
you needed it.
Because
I
then
don't
at
know if
that
we
point,
would've
you're just
needed
messing with the.
We needed low range, but I don't think.
Yeah, we didn't really need the
needed
4-wheel
it, yeah,
drive.
but it was basically a shelf road, and for that, and that my point was exactly Hunter's is that here's a 23-year-old. Of course, he's Hunter's an avid four-wheeler. He's got a built Jeep and no broken axles,
I
done
don't
all
know,
the
Hunter. You better
Colorado
be careful.
trails.
I had a Jeep follow behind, and we left him.
I know, he's been to Moab, all that kind of stuff. So, but bottom line is, 23-year-old kid took a very big rig up out on 4-wheel drive trails, and I don't know, total from Page to Escalante was probably over 100 miles.
Yeah. And
all on dirt.
All
Yeah.
on dirt.
Yeah, and mostly in low range. Well, the first gravel road section
mainly, and there was a few rocky technical
18
sections that we did.
18 degrees off camera.
Yep.
That was a little,
You can feel it for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine because yesterday Steve took me on something that was about 11. I was like, oh, is this okay? He's like,
yeah, I wasn't really thinking about it, but I'm like, yeah, she might not have done this for after she said something.
Yeah.
oh, it's, I have what do we call it? Was it physics common sense?
Yeah, you did.
right?
A good
Right.
job. Yeah.
Exactly.
She approached that. We were just coming off the pasture onto a trail, and she approached at an angle. She did, or lessened the angle, I guess. So yeah, you did.
And,
right.
and the cool thing about the way that this was kind of put together, I mean, there's a lot of weight down low.
Mhm.
So you got to realize your center of gravity isn't as high as you think it is.
Exactly.
I mean, your engine's underneath you, right? So
It's
I mean
basically
that, and we have
right
200
there.
gallons of fuel that are real down low on the chassis
And-
frames, and so
And right where it needs to be from a center of gravity perspective, front to back, too.
right.
So,
So you're high up there, so that makes it feel really tippy.
Right.
But I mean, you realize that center of gravity is pretty low to the ground, and you can get pretty steep.
So it sounds like you guys really have really heavily factored in the whole weight distribution.
It was important. And it definitely, because we didn't obviously want to see a lean to the vehicle. We didn't want to see some of those things that we've heard of other manufacturers or other problems happen in the industry where somebody's got too much weight one way or the other, and so we took that as a serious design requirement. And weight is a huge thing. I mean, so
yeah.
any pound I save in the design process, I add to the customer's ability to bring stuff.
Well, and that kind of
yeah.
factors in the whole weight to power ratios
So,
and fuel
yeah,
mileage and all of that stuff too, right?
Exactly. Our the max GVW or the GBWR of this vehicle is 33,000 pounds and full of fuel, which is 200 gallons of fuel, which is quite a bit of weight. The vehicle weighs 26,500, 26,500, right
Yeah.
in there. So we're well below GVW, and that's a big challenge on some, not just expedition vehicles, RVs, whatever. Is you have to have enough leftover carrying capacity,
Right. OCC or CCC.
OCC. That's the term I was looking for.
Oh, there's a term for
so,
this.
Yeah,
I
that's
see.
what I was
Okay.
stumbling on. But yeah, basically, you want to be able to put your bikes and your surfboards and all if you're traveling for extended periods of time, your winter gear, all the things that you want to carry with to have fun while you're out on the road. And there's several thousand pounds available to do that. So the net result is the vehicle does not feel undersprung,
No.
and in any way, shape, or form, and it's makes it more of a pleasure to drive. So
Yeah, and I mean, if you give people all this storage space that we do, it has to be able to put stuff in it. So we say we're at GVW, we give you this whole storage space, but
Yeah.
you can't use it.
Well, and
So
that was kind of a big thing is at the trade show, I had a lot of people, well, what's under the bed? There's a lot of empty space there. I'm like, my good sir and ladies. But on the outside, there's a giant belly locker there, and it
Right.
goes all the way through.
Yep.
And so for me, in my head, I'm thinking there's another weight distribution tactic because your bed's really not that heavy, but your toys you want down low that are heavier.
Yeah,
So-
people want to carry their toys, and there's obviously a lot of options for carrying things on the back. But when you do, they get dirty, right? 'Cause,
Right,
that's
yeah.
just the nature of the back of a vehicle. So having that, capacity to put, an e-bike or your high-end mountain bikes in the garage where they're nice and comfy and warm.
on a slide out, making it easy to get to.
750-pound slide out. Slide out actually goes in both directions.
Oh, cool.
Comes out both sides of the truck, so you're not crawling over
So you can be
something.
backed up against a wall here, and you can still pull that out
Pull
on
out
the other side.
Right,
Yep.
right.
So, let's go to Harrison. I think we got a question.
Right on.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions that came in, but one of them, talk to me about the top speed of the Epic. It's a good one.
All right,
So,
boys.
You want to go?
Yeah, I mean, you can hit 70 miles an hour on flat ground. It going uphill, you'll feel it a little bit, but it's got the torque. It will hit it, and it's got a nice little key over on the pedal, so you can hit that extra. It'll keep it in a little lower gear set and help chug up that. But you'll be comfortable at highway speeds.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people know about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So for those that are watching, when you're on the throttle in this thing and you're basically feeling like you're tapped out, there's actually about, what would you say, about an eighth of an inch, quarter of an inch,
yeah.
where you can force that pedal just a little bit. And
There's a
that
cam over.
basically,
Yeah.
Right.
what does that do? Like bump up your line pressure
Yeah.
and forces a downshift, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much. It just keeps you in that lower gear set, so you can keep in that torque range and that RPM range
Yeah.
that you want to be
You
in.
know, the tires are rated at 68, and the vehicle's technically governed from Kenworth at 70. We're not allowed to remove that governor because of warranty and just the, following the good practices of the OEM. But that doesn't mean you can't. But, it's a slow roamer, man. This is not, your speed demon. You're so much more comfortable on the back roads with this thing. And that's what it's designed for. And that really is the vibe.
And you can feel the happy.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a happy.
I mean, when
medium.
you're on the 55, 60 mile an hour back roads, it's effortless to drive. That's where that's its home. That's what it loves.
Now, for what it's worth, I did kind of push the old girl across the country,
sure.
and I had Matt behind me, and he's like, dude, I don't know if you know this, but we're averaging 70 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, you're going to consume more fuel.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, if you need
Yeah.
to get somewhere, you can still get
Yeah,
somewhere.
we
You
do
can still go
65 on the highway all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yep.
And not really stress the vehicle in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form.
One more question.
Yeah, we had another question come in. This is from Lisa. She asked, what's the design element that you guys are the most proud of?
That's a good one. Thank you,
I'm gonna
Lisa.
let you roll with that, brother.
Oh, that's tough.
Where do you?
Yeah.
I know what she's gonna say.
Well, okay, I can say there's a couple different things, but like from a new engineer coming in, getting this thing certified was a big deal just as a whole, for a company. And that's a safety certification, as well as it allows you to get the loans and get it, make it more affordable for everybody to purchase. And so we're very proud. The whole engineering team is very proud that this thing is certified and it's safe. Now, when it comes to features in the vehicle that I love, that's a tough one. Probably the bathroom is so big and spacious, and we had to do some work, from a subfloor standpoint to meet the plumbing needs that we had to do and meet the certifications
There's a lot
there.
of engineering in that.
Yeah, and so to get the head height that we did and stuff, we had to really play that game. And so there was a little bit of a proud moment when we got all those requirements to meet up. And so
For what it's
Well-
worth, I think you should be proud of that,
Yeah.
because I did watch a 6'2" man get in that bathroom and stand up fully.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he
yeah, all
couldn't.
day-
He's
all
like,
day
oh my
long.
God, I actually fit in this.
the only other thing would be
I was gonna say, I'll comment as well. I'm a 6'2" man, and I can sit on that toilet and kick my feet, and my legs don't even touch the counter. It's
Right on.
incredible.
right.
I got an answer for that question too. My two favorite things, material wise or asset wise in the truck, is the Shieldman seats and the Kenwood head unit. That just refines the driving experience. The Shieldman seats, our Shieldman seats, are they're good.
Yeah.
Now they're air ride seats.
Yeah, they're air ride seats, and they're heat and air, of course, cooled. A lot of lumbar and everything, all that. But they're just great seats. The Kenwood head unit has the Apple CarPlay, wireless Apple CarPlay, navigation, turn signal activation for the mirrors and all that. So basically, it's really refined the driving experience of the vehicle. But from the vehicle's perspective, I think what I'm most proud of is really the fact that we've taken this custom vehicle business model and turned it into a slightly more refined manufacturing process because of the standardized vehicle aspect of things, right?
Slightly.
Yeah,
My good
and-
sir.
Yeah, you've probably seen some of
I'd
that.
say very Much so,
Right.
to be honest.
So, that what the net result in that is the trucks, I mean, literally, probably the best built expedition vehicle like this in North America before we even started, right? Before we even started. But with any custom design, you're rushing out the door. That's kind of challenging. And, by manufacturing the same vehicle, implementing the same quality control processes that you have in high level automotive manufacturing, very standardized processes, refining your workstations, getting your guys' tools exactly where they need to be, putting your point of use consumables in those workstations. It just builds a muscle memory with all these craftsmen that already
Yes.
had all these amazing skills to begin with. And the net result is a much more consistent product. I mean, literally. And, that just makes a better truck.
Well, and it's kind of like, Mr. Ford taught us, if you were doing something consistently,
Right.
you're getting them out a lot
But
quicker too.
when people ask the question, what was your best truck? It's like the last one we built.
Definitely.
I like that. That's really cool. I think Harrison actually has another question for us. Thank you for the questions, by the way, you
Yeah,
guys.
of
This is
course.
great.
So we talked a little bit about your favorite design features, but we had another question come in. What's the most badass part of the truck?
The bumper.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's got to be 44-inch tires, right? Like
Yeah,
that
right.
ratio is awesome.
No, the thing just looks mean.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the front end. I mean, what is it? 3-inch tubing for the grill
Yep.
guard? I mean,
3-inch, wow,
is there
okay.
function in that? Maybe not, but it freaking
But it looks
cool.
mean, and people like to get
Yeah,
out of
and,
your way.
If you look at the amount of labor that goes into the roof rack, the front bumper, it absolutely makes no business case, but it's cool,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got a stance.
I think that is one of the favorite things is the aesthetic of this whole thing. Is on the outside it's just rough and tough, mean looking thing, but then you get on the inside and it's just refined and relaxed and comfortable.
Right.
And so it's
And that's,
business.
What's that, a
and
mullet? Is
pleasure
that like
all
is that
in
like a
one.
mullet or something?
Right.
I don't know about a
Business in the
mullet.
front
Maybe the
pocket.
mullets can stay outside.
Right. But and that's kind of the whole gig is the outside and just the the ruggedness of the vehicle appeals to the men. But when you're inside this vehicle and going through the living function of being in this vehicle is just it's a refined experience. Period. I mean, you shut that door, the world doesn't exist.
Oh, really?
And
it doesn't.
as I've said before, the more comfortable you are when you're adventuring, the longer you will adventure, and there's no shortage on comfort.
Right, you're right.
Yeah, so Steve, you mentioned this a little bit, but with that comfort, talk to me about when we were camping in the wind up on top of that cliff.
Yeah, that's a good example. So we had just came from King of the Hammers, did kind of a long cross country day, getting to Valley of the Gods. Moki Dugway Pass is a mountain pass, I guess you could call it that, but basically another set of pretty steep switchbacks that go up to one of those epic Utah views. You're on the cliff, 1,000-foot drops, kind of a mini Grand Canyon kind of thing. Beautiful sunset. Got one of the most gorgeous pictures I've ever had. And then, of course, the Utah wind rolls in, and it's like 60 miles an hour. Man, I wish I had a picture of where Matt and I camped that night. But so the guys in the Epic and the Hilt, man, they just closed the door. And Matt and I had been kind of scouting ahead, finding campsites in our Jeeps with rooftop tents. And we literally had to scurry down the mountain at 9 o'clock at night and go tuck our little Jeeps up into a 300-foot cliff and build a fire in the corner of that cliff so we could be comfy. So, that's just an example of that. The more comfortable you are while you're adventuring, especially with spouses and stuff. Some people can't tolerate the cold very well. Like my wife, she doesn't do well with the cold. And so going in a rig like this, she's not suffering. So.
Yeah, I mean, those joints, they take a toll sometimes.
Yeah, right on.
You guys seem to be rolling in the questions. Let's go with another one.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had James ask, is this something I could work remote from while out in the sticks? And I think I already know the answer to that.
Yeah, right.
What would allow him to stay connected to business functions while being disconnected from the hustle in the city? That was worded incredibly. So great comment.
Hunter, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, definitely. We pre-wire this with Starlink. So you can add your Starlink module to the top of this roof and have internet wherever you need to be.
Yeah.
And it's just a plug and play.
Just a plug and play.
Yeah, I mean,
it mounts already up there. You're just
Wow.
ready to go.
Right.
Easy
I mean, the
peasy.
mounts up there, the wires are ran literally few bolts, drop your Starlink in, plug it in, you're good to go.
And it's a great working space. This
Oh, yeah.
area, you know,
Oh,
you've got
it's-
outlets and yeah, you can just sit inside and be protected and then
I mean,
go to work.
both the Hilton and the Epic are just content creators' dream. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally
We're
shooting,
doing that right
recording,
now.
editing a podcast live from in a truck. So I agree.
So we have a narration guy, we have a video guy, we have we have the audio guy, and us. So that's 6 of us.
Yeah.
I was at a local event. We had a tornado warning come through. Everybody piled in the Epic, and I'm cooking steak and lobster, and there's a tornado.
Oh my
warning.
gosh.
So-
I was going to
and we were
ask
cramped.
how the cooking experience has been in this.
I should have my wife here to answer that question.
'Cause she's a great
It's
chef.
great.
It's
Yeah.
you know, I had never really cooked on induction cooktops before, and I tested it one day, of course, because I you know, you ask my guys, I test everything in the most wrongest ways, I guess, in the worst ways. But anyway, you can boil the water in 4 minutes on that thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. And it's a very, again, refined experience. Your kitchen sink is just as deep as it would be in your residence. You have filtered H2O water, you know, guzzle H2O filtration and purification.
Yep.
Correct? So you know, if you did have to get some questionable water, it converts that to, you know, as good as
Oh,
water
that's
as you can buy from the
great.
store. So yeah, you know, I mean, it's just like cooking at home.
Yeah,
maybe
ton
even,
of prep
maybe even
space.
better.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say my previous apartment, my sink wasn't that big.
Yeah, right.
And oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it's so nice.
Yeah, and you know, just the little things, you know, the the fixtures that we purchased, they're all good quality.
Right.
Of
And
course.
cutting board that fits in there so you can
Yeah.
gain that extra space. And
You know, I haven't mentioned these windows, but I'm going to sneak this in here somewhere.
Thank you. Because to be honest, I love the windows
Oh, I
and the
know.
European styling of it, especially because there was a night when we were camping and you're dealing with, there's bugs out there, but you still want the windows open,
Yeah, right.
but you don't want them full.
Yeah.
Go ahead and walk us through this.
Go ahead, Hunter. I'll let you.
well, yeah, they're fantastic windows. The big thing was, I mean, Mike and Renee, you know, spent a lot of time looking for windows that were correct for this, and they had these, and so we did a whole design process around those too, and just making sure that's what we wanted. And the big thing was, you know, the R value, you know, making sure that they hold in heat and stuff, and they're double pane. They do great. They don't rattle. They provide the shade, you know, with the screen and with the what's the word I'm looking for?
Shade.
The shade.
Yeah.
There you go. And then also have a bug screen that's retractable. And so we kept them. They were fantastic, and they perform fantastic in the field.
Yeah. And, you know, they're just literally the best window in the world. That's all there is to it.
remind me of the German windows, and the Germans pride themselves on their windows. And what I like about them is there's also the ability to just crack it, but still keep it closed.
Yeah.
So
And
you
locked.
can,
And locked. Yeah.
and that's the thing is you can have your window slightly
Yeah.
open but closed, and you can leave and have airflow, but you can also keep your screen closed so the bugs aren't getting in,
Right.
and it just allows things to stay more fresh
Right.
and open in here.
Yeah. You turn the max fan on, crack the windows, put the screen up. You're
It's
getting
great.
good flow. And actually, the narrowness of that open kind of accentuates the airflow
Yep.
almost. You know,
Yep.
makes it
The
kind of feel like
Venturi.
yeah, Venturi. Exactly.
See, guys, I
Yes.
do know some stuff. Okay.
I know.
Let's go with Harrison again.
Yeah, so we've had a couple questions come in that we have not gotten to answer yet. We talked about fuel capacity. What does that equate to with miles per gallon?
Go ahead, Hunter.
So I mean, if you're babying it and being real good, you can get, you know, 8 to 9. I think is what we kind of see.
I've seen 9
Yeah.
in Kansas.
Yeah. So like I said, being gentle with it. It could be. I mean, you can get worse than that. I think we estimate about 1,800 miles for a full tank.
Well, so you know, I try to be realistic on that. Like when we were off the pavement, so when we were in Utah, we kind of paid attention a little bit. We were down in the 7 to 8, but we were doing 100 miles at 10, 15 miles an hour too.
Mhm.
So you know, it all depends on how much you're off road. But so let's go worst case, 6 to 9 miles to gallon, or really 7 is I think the lowest I've seen. 7 to 9 miles a gallon, so that's 14 to 1,800 miles of range.
And I would say that checks out about based
So-
on my trip.
Yeah, right. And I think, you know, our Lee, our CEO, picked the truck up to take it out to Overland Expo West to put that in perspective. We're in Springfield, Missouri. We filled it up. I think we did before he left. And shame on us if we didn't. And he made it all the way to Overland Expo without filling up, which was in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. Can attest.
And that's kind of cool because if you are in a a remote country where low sulfur diesel may not be as prevalent, that's where that necessity, that Mike and Renee design influence, GXV design influence, that gives there's low sulfur diesel in the larger cities, but there isn't in those remote areas. So you can kind of plan. Okay, I'm not even going to look for fuel until I get to this larger city.
Great point.
And just to add this little cool design feature on this thing is the tanks are on opposite sides of the vehicle, but it isn't a primary tank that you're pulling from.
Okay.
So they're actually teed together, and we pull from both tanks simultaneously. So that way you keep the weight balance between the two, and so you can refill. And that's a nice little feature on that whole screen. You're not pumping into another tank.
That's why you get the big bucks, guy.
Yeah. And as with as with most expedition vehicles, your hot water and your cabin heat come from diesel power, and the fact that you have that extra capacity just again extends your off-grid experience, right?
Harrison, I think I saw another one. Huh?
Yeah, you guys are killing it with the questions. So let's talk about the rack over the cab. Is that actually usable for storage, or is it more for protection?
Storage.
Yeah,
for
storage.
sure.
Yeah, a lot of people will put aluminum, weatherproof cases up there and most of the time it's typically like recovery gear or stuff you don't get at all the time, or maybe even your inflatable kayaks or your inflatable paddle boards, things like that. So yeah, larger, bulkier items that you don't use frequently. I mean, it's 10 feet in the air, so you got to be planning about it.
Yeah, I kind of had to climb up there at one point to clean the windscreen a little bit. So anything up there is not a daily accessible.
No, but that's not what it was intended for, right?
But worst case, there is a hatch.
But it is the coolest looking roof rack in existence.
It's pretty
and
cool.
The guy that fabricates that is just an artist, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. That's fabricated right here too. So,
I was going to ask where that's fabricated.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's aluminum, so it's very light comparatively to its size and structure and substance.
Right on. Any more questions there?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
you guys talked to me about the ventilation in the bathroom. We had someone ask, it's a really funny question. How good is the ventilation in the bathroom? Do those windows open enough to stick your head out? Because she knows a guy who can clear a room.
I'll go with that one.
I love that.
So number one, there is a window, same brand of window as these, and number two, there's a skylight. So
No pun
between
intended.
those two, there's quite a bit of cross flow. So that's good. I think one of the unique things about the bathroom, and Ron and Hunter had a big part of this, is when we upgraded from our first prototype unit to the production unit, we selected the AquaHop 450D for our hydronic system because it has literally a separate pump and a separate zone and a separate thermostat specifically for the bathroom. So, as with any bathroom, you want to control the dampness. And so basically shut the door, crank up the thermostat, leave the skylight on, turn it up to 100 degrees, dry the bathroom out, and you're good to go. As far as the guy that clears the room, that's kind of your issue.
And
I
then
don't,
See a doctor.
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
kidding.
but it's as ventilated as well as a small space can be.
another question we had come in is, tell us more about the washer dryer, because when I've lived in this vehicle, that is what lets me stay on the road indefinitely versus just until I run out of clothes.
I would love to talk about this if
Yeah,
I
right on.
can. So when I drove this across the country, I did a load of laundry while driving down the road.
Yeah.
And
Pretty
where
cool.
I got to my destination, I had warm sheets and clean sheets
Nice.
to put on this bed. And I
Nice.
think that was also the night when I took a full-blown curly hair shower.
Right.
And that was when Matt also took a shower.
Right.
And so between the laundry and then the two full-blown showers, we still had 50% of our
Yeah,
water left.
cool. Yeah. And who wants to go to a laundromat? I don't.
No.
I mean, when people, the first thing I usually say and says, tell me the biggest difference between the Hilt and the Epic. And I say the washing machine.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things that represents extended travel, really,
Yeah.
without being inconvenienced again. So, yeah.
Yeah, and from the engineering perspective, that's good to hear because there was a lot of debate. That was one of the first things that was on the chopping block.
Oh,
was-
really?
It
Yeah.
was,
Was real debate on whether storage or if that was going to be used. And
Yeah, we
We
thought
went-
about plumbing at first, but
Right.
not providing it. But
And so we went back and forth and back and forth, and we ended up making the decision to be able to stay out there. That's something that people need, and so we kept it. And
That
so
is
I'm glad to hear.
the biggest eye opener I feel,
Yeah.
at least from my experience when I was at the last expo, was when you threw that out there, people were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
There's a washer and dryer in that thing? It's like, yeah, dude, it's pretty cool.
it is cool.
Harrison.
Yeah, so this is the last question I have for you guys, actually. But
Okay.
for each one of you, what is your dream trip you could take in the Epic?
Henry, you want to go first?
Up to Alaska, 100%.
I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way as far as I can go.
I want to do the Pan American Trail, no
Yep.
doubt. It's been on my
That's
bucket
awesome.
list forever.
For me, to be honest, I would love to do like a surfing and snowboarding trip in the same week. You know, go to Mount Hood or something like that
Yeah,
in the
right on.
summer, and then go down to SoCal for surfing. So yeah, that
cool.
would be awesome for me. But so we are gonna wrap things up, but before we do, we're gonna ask kind of one last question, and this is also another one that's also very often asked. Who buys something like this? What kind of a person would be interested in purchasing a vehicle like this?
Yeah, that's a real good question. You know, I think the most common profile, if there was one, would be young. Well, you know, I say relatively young, in their 40s to 50s, business owners, small business entrepreneur type people that have built up a successful business and sold it. Most of them are adventure-based people, meaning mountain biking, rock climbing, all of the above, surfing, whatever. And so, you know, they've been successful financially in their career, and they're not necessarily in the autumn of their life, but they're wanting to live their life. And with the connectivity that you have in rigs like this these days, there's no limitation to if you wanted to do consulting or live off the road and make and earn some additional income. So I think that's the most common profile. You know, and some what you would think would be the traditional retired you know, couple kind of thing, but most of them have been a little bit younger, to tell you the truth, you know, than what you would think of as the retired person buying their RV to go their dream. But a lot of them have plans to travel extensively and do Alaska. I mean, just about every person who buys this truck takes it to Alaska. I mean, it's one of the first things they want to do, right? And so, yeah, it's, you know, young, successful people that have worked very hard their entire life and got a reward from it and said, you know, I want to live my life for change. So, yeah.
And Hunter did touch on this earlier, just to kind of put the little cherry on the top with that. He did say, because these are not custom vehicles and these are RVs,
Right.
if you take a loan out, you're not doing an automotive loan. It's
Right.
your typical long-term 20+ year loan.
Right,
So
right.
that makes it makes the dream
Accessible.
obtainable.
Right. Right.
Definitely.
And, you know, this vehicle would literally be probably 2 to 3, as it's equipped, would probably be $200,000 to $300,000 more expensive than it is if it was a custom designed vehicle, as it's equipped today with the solar and battery and capacities of all the things we have. So,
And if this is your home, you're not
Yeah.
having utility bills, HOA fees,
Right.
pesky neighbors. All you need is maybe a plot of land for
Right.
a home base. And
you know, and you know, and I must say that, you know, take all the 4-wheel drive and all the cool factors of the rough and ruggedness. That's one thing, but you know, we have taken these vehicles to amazing locations. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I don't know, to me, I think the off-grid component of it is probably the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Just being so self-sustainable, and that having that, not just self-sustainable, but that comfort level to live the way you want to live and not feel compromised, but yet having the flexibility to be in these cool spots. I mean, like I said, it's a content creator's dream. I mean,
And not being rushed.
yeah,
Just not feeling that pressure
Yeah.
that I've got
like
to get
that.
back.
yeah. If you got 2 or 3 days worth of work, you want to hole up and it's raining. You know, I mean, you know, you don't recreate when it's raining, so those are the days when you need the power the most, right? So yeah, that's what that extra capacity and, you know, having backups like generators and things like that are for. But I'm personally never used a generator, so I don't know.
well, thank you guys so much for talking to us today
right
about this awesome epic. And to bring even more epicness this week, please stay tuned tomorrow. Same place, same time. We're going to have a band in here.
Don't forget the band
There's going to be a band. Come and check us out.
in the epic.
in the Epic. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you for stopping by.
Right.
Thank
on.
you.